A 75-year study was done by Harvard. They studied graduates of Harvard over 75 years to see what happened in their life, what impacted their life the most, what brought them the greatest success and happiness in their life, really what made them fulfilled and happy the most. It wasn't money, it wasn't position, it wasn't power, it wasn't status. Can you guess what it was? Love and relationships. Yes, yes. It wasn't how many friends you had. Robert Wallinger, the director of the Harvard study of adult development, said it wasn't how many, having lots of friends. It wasn't going out on the weekends and partying with a lot of people. It was really the quality of your relationships that made the biggest difference. He said the study's clear. Clearly it points out that relationships, good relationships, help you be happier and healthier. In fact, the research says that when you're in a good relationship, your nervous system is more relaxed, your brain is healthier, and you're able to deal with pain, physical and emotional pain better. Just a few of the benefits of good relationships. And what is a good relationship? Well, the study says that it's being vulnerable with someone else, being able to be vulnerable, being able to share and communicate, being able to be seen as who you are and to see the other person as who they are. Good relationships. So that's what I want to talk about this morning. How to develop good, loving relationships in 20 minutes. First of all, in order to develop loving relationships, we need to develop loving relationships with ourselves. We just sang a song about love. The gospel in one word is love. Love thy neighbor as yourself. You can't love or give to anybody else what we don't have within ourselves. Right? If you have a penny, that's all you can give another person is a penny. Same with love. So cultivating and developing an awareness of that love. So many people are lonely and suffering from loneliness. And they think if I could just have enough friends or people in my life, I won't be lonely. But how many people have had the experience of being married and never being more lonely in a marriage or in a relationship? So it's not how many people we have in our life. It's really a psychological state. It's a deficiency of spirit. It's not having a relationship with other people that makes the biggest difference. It's having the relationship with ourself. Cultivating that relationship with ourselves. Being comfortable, feeling happy, feeling fulfilled alone. I believe my dad struggled with that one. I don't think he liked being by himself. How are you when you're by yourself? Are you happy by yourself? Are you happy alone? Some of you are like, yeah, I'm too happy by myself. Can't get me out of the house. That's good. Happy with yourself, then you can be happy with another person, right? Because if you're not happy by yourself, you're not going to be happy with somebody else. No one can make us happy. Cultivate that relationship with yourself. Discover that depth, that divine dimension of love that is there already. Because God is there. Spirit is there already. Learning to enter seclusion of our own being. Someone said seclusion is the price of greatness. Seclusion is the price of greatness. Yogananda actually said that. Learning to be with yourself. Jesus said, when you pray, go into your inner chamber and shut the door. Learn to be alone. Learn to discover that divine dimension within your being. Lloyd John Ogilvie, who was the chaplain for the Senate, he was a Presbyterian minister. Many years ago, he had a show called Let God Love You. And I remember one time on the show, he said, no one can ever give you enough love. No one can. Only God. Only God. So cultivate that relationship with yourself. And next, don't fall in love. Rise in love. When people fall in love, it often may mean that it's all about emotion. It's all about sexual chemistry. For many people, it's about what they can get out of the relationship. A counselor discovered in talking with people, premarital counseling, that many of them wanted to get married because of various reasons like, well, she makes me feel good. Or he does a lot for me. He loves me. And that sort of is like the wrong reason to get involved ultimately. There's got to be more than that. That tends to be selfishness. I've never been married. I've had opportunities, but I've just never felt right. And I don't regret it at all. And now I'm at the point where I don't need to be married. You know, don't need to. But I have been in a number of relationships over the years, and they've been learning experiences. And I cherish all of them. But I remember one time we had broken up in the relationship, but we remained friends. And this lady was going through a change in her life, and she was uncomfortable with the change in her life. She was scared. She was nervous, and I was hearing from her every day. And we would talk, and I would listen, and I would encourage her, and so on. As soon as she got comfortable in her new situation, I didn't hear from her again. And I was a little discouraged by that. In fact, I told the therapist I was talking to, I said, I don't know that I believe in human love. It seems to me it's all about selfishness, getting your needs met. And if you're not meeting my needs, you're history. And she, being a smart therapist, she agreed with me. I'm kidding when I say that, but she did agree with me. She said something like, yes, Justin, you know, that's what most of us are doing. We're trying to get our needs met because we haven't been able to transcend or grow beyond that yet in our life. Thomas à Kempis once wrote, the person who seeketh his own falleth from love. If it's just what I'm getting out of it, then I'm out of tunement with love. The teacher of Yogananda in the autobiography of a yogi says this. He says, ordinary love is selfish, darkly rooted in desires and satisfactions. You know, if you please me, then I love you. If I feel good in your presence, then I love you. If you meet my needs, I love you. That's ordinary love. Divine love is without condition, without boundary, without change. Remember Shakespeare? Love never alters, when alteration it finds. It just loves. The flux of the human heart is gone forever at the transfixing touch of pure love. Interesting, right? I don't think that relationships are the main reason we're on the planet. They're all around us, but I believe the real reason we're here is to cultivate the divine relationship, to cultivate the connection with God, to get in attunement with that love that is always within us and around us, and to develop that connection. Because it's only when we have that connection that we can really be able to love another human being for who they are, not for just what we're going to get from them. Make sense? Eric Butterworth said something many years ago, which I thought was interesting. He said, the difference between a spiritual relationship and one in selfishness. He says, do you enjoy the other person, or do you enjoy yourself through the instrumentality of the other? I'll say that again. Do you enjoy the other person, or do you enjoy yourself through the instrumentality of the other? The first is the enjoyment of love. The second is the enjoyment of lust. So none of us is perfect, right? Perfect people don't get married. Perfect people don't get into relationships. They're self-sufficient. They're happy in themselves. They're not looking for someone to complete them. Remember that line? I'm just remembering it now. It was a Jane Austen movie. I love those movies. And I think it was Persuasion. And finally, I think her name was Anne, finally gets the captain. And they're sailing away. I'm ruining the ending for you. They're sailing, well, but it's great to watch the movie itself. They're sailing away on the ship with the captain, and he says to her, I think it's in a note, you complete me. You complete me. And then I think the Tom Cruise movie stole the line, and they used it in that movie also. You complete me. But you know what? Nobody can complete you except you and God, and knowing the connection, the oneness. When we find that inner completion, then we're able to love another person. Don't fall in love with a dreamer. That kept coming to me today. Don't fall in love with a dreamer. Rise in love. Rise in love. Rise in the awareness of God's love within you, around you. And love people from that awareness. Love with God's love. That's the goal. Then you can be with a whole person. You can be a whole person with a whole person, enjoying one another and growing together. Not insecure, not possessive, not afraid, not jealous, not going back and forth because we're trying to get something from somebody, but rather two whole people enjoying one another and enjoying the journey together. That's what I think it's meant to be. And I've experienced that. Rise in love. Years ago, I remember reading Louise Hay, who was answering a question. Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. And someone was asking, when am I going to meet my soulmate? I wish I were in a relationship. And Louise Hay, probably in her 60s at the time, she said, I wish I were in a relationship too. I would like to be in a relationship, but I'm not. But instead, I'm loving people and I'm loving life. That's giving expression to the divine love that is within you. Some people, it's just us four and no more. You know, they love their little circle of friends. They love their family. And they feel my love is limited, so I can only give it to a certain number of people. And I'm not going to open my heart to being hurt by people out here in the world or whoever. But that's very limiting. Jesus on the cross looked at his mother and John, and he said, "Who is my mother? Who is my brother? Except those who love God, who do the will of God, who love God." In other words, let love express through you to everybody. To everybody. When we're in love with life, when we let love express through us, we're happy, we're fulfilled. In fact, usually what happens to me is when I'm not in a relationship, I find, gee, I'm really very happy and content and peaceful. And it's when I'm in that place that I end up meeting somebody. You know? And it's possible to be happy, content within oneself, and to live in that love, and to be a vehicle for love to all people. Next, form loving relationships by growing in them. Goethe says a relationship, he uses the word marriage, I'm going to put the word relationship in there. A relationship is not a goal in itself, but is an opportunity to mature. It's to grow, right? We want to grow. Each person needs to grow. This Harvard study says that one of the guys, George Valiant, the Harvard psychologist who directed the study from 1972 to 2004, he said there are two foundational elements to this whole idea of being in good relationships. He says one is love, the other is finding a way of coping with life that does not push love away. How many people do you know who are in pain, they need support, they need love, and they're in such pain that they get angry with everyone around them? They push people away. And so they say that the need is to learn how to cope with your emotions, how to deal with stress, so that when traumas do happen, when someone loses a job, maybe a child dies, maybe a parent dies, that you're able to handle those emotions and stress and not push the people away who are in your life. That's learning how to love yourself too, to take care of yourself. And they say, get counseling, get coaching, get grief therapy or grief coaching. And of course, from a spiritual perspective, we'd say meditate, pray. We would say be around spiritual, supportive people. I would say exercise. I would say eat well. Do the things that nurture yourself. Learn how to accept yourself, your emotions, so that when things happen, you're strong. You can be centered and not say things that are going to drive the very people who are important to you away. So develop that foundation of love with yourself. Don't fall in love, rise in love, and grow in love. And lastly, know that true love is with you always. True love is with you always. When Yogananda was 11 years old, his mother died, and he was heartbroken. 11 years old, his mother died. He was heartbroken. For years, he struggled to understand why. One morning, years later, he was praying fervently, God, divine mother, which is how he referred to God. Why? Tell me. And all of a sudden, the Divine Mother spoke to him, and her words brought final healing to his wounds. She said, "It is I who have watched over thee life after life in the tenderness of many mothers. See in my gaze the two black eyes, the lost, beautiful eyes thou seekest." Many of you know that in October my mother passed away. She had been struggling with bone cancer for a year. And about 4 weeks ago, all of a sudden I just started having thoughts about my mother. And I wasn't sad. I wasn't going back in my memory. I wasn't looking at photos. Just all of a sudden, she started coming to my mind often. And when that happens, I tend to think that it's someone visiting, saying hello from the other side of life, because I believe you go on. And I would, hey, Mom, or hey, Dad, or Grandpa, or Granny, or whoever, in this case, my mother. Of course, there are times when I wonder if it's just my imagination. And I thought, wonder why she's all of a sudden coming around. It's not her birthday, it's not Mother's Day, but she's here. And it may have to do with my stepfather, who's in a nursing home. And he has been on hospice for 2 years. And he's been doing so well, he's getting cataract surgery on Thursday. He's been doing so well, hospice dropped him. And I thought that was one of the reasons he was doing so well, is because of hospice. So maybe she was there to support me in that surprise, and him, who knows. But anyway, I wondered, is this real? Is she there? All right. The next day, Jeff, here in the church, we were coordinating this movie we're going to show in the church. He had the DVD. And he sent me a text message. He said, "Hey, I've been away a few Sundays. I was at a funeral for a person who is like a mother to me. She was 90-some years old, and when my mother died, she became a mother to me." I asked Jeff if I could share that. And I said, well, it's interesting because my mom's been coming to my mind a lot lately. And he said, oh, well, let me send you the poem that I read at the funeral. And the poem said, "Your mother is always with you." The next day, I was in a staff meeting with my staff upstairs. The next day. And Victoria, who's in the bookstore, I asked her if I could share this as well. She brought up Mother's Day. Are we going to get carnations for Mother's Day this year too? You all get a carnation when you leave today in honor of mothers who've passed on or mothers who are still here. And I said, yeah, let's do that. And then I brought up Father's Day. And she said, well, it's interesting that you should also bring up Father's Day, because Victoria transcribes the little videos that we send out every week, the 6-minute or so videos. She transcribes them so you can read it or watch it. She said, it's interesting, Justin, that you should bring up Father's Day also, because I just now, before this meeting, transcribed your message on honor your father and your mother. And in it, it talks about something my mother said to me just 8 months ago or so. And the point is, your mother is always with you. The Divine Mother is always with you. The Divine Father is always with you. God is always with you and within you. We live and move and have our being in this presence. People are eternal beings, and sometimes they may visit you because there is no separation. There is only God, and there is, in the bottom line, there is only love. Remember the words of Jesus, The I am is God in you. He said, lo, I am is with you always. God bless you and happy Mother's Day. Thank you.